Okay, this is 6.1a, area and perimeter, day 1. And here we go. So our question today is, how do I find the area and perimeter of compound shapes? So how do I find the area and perimeter of compound shapes? So first we have to remember what those things are. The perimeter of a two-dimensional shape, we're focused on two-dimensional shapes, is the distance around the outside of the shape. Think about it as the fence. It equals the sum of the lengths of all sides. So again, think about putting a fence around something. The area of a two-dimensional shape is the total space inside. So think of that like carpet. So when we talk about perimeter, it's a fence. An area would be like putting carpet down in a room. So this next section is just the different formulas that we're going to use for what we're doing. Formulae, it's not spelled wrong. That's actually plural for formulas. We like to sound fancy in math. Rectangle, base times height. Triangle, half the base times the height. A parallelogram is again base times height, but notice that the height is the perpendicular height in both the triangle and the parallelogram, not one of the slanted sides. So it's the perpendicular height to the base. A parallelogram is any four-sided shape that has two sides that are parallel, these two and these two. A trapezoid has one set of parallel lines and the other two don't have to be, and that formula is half of the two parallel sides. That's what A and B are, the two parallel sides, and again the height has to be perpendicular. So when you're looking at a trapezoid, make sure that you identify the two parallel sides, and that's your A and B. And then a kite is a quadrilateral with non-parallel sides, and again you have length and height that are perpendicular. So you have to find the two measurements that are perpendicular that form that right angle right here. So to find the area of a compound shape. Compound means that it's more than one shape put together. So you did basic shapes, these five basic shapes plus other ones, when you were in middle school and elementary school. We're not going to cover single shapes. We're only going to focus on the compound shapes that we're looking at. So let's start with the area of compound shapes. The first thing that we do, make my pen work, is to break the polygon down into smaller shapes that you know the formulas for. So you want to break it into pieces so that we can find those things. Then we calculate the area. Of each smaller shape. And then we're all done. We will add or subtract, depending on the shape, the areas. So we're going to add up the shapes, break into smaller shapes, find the area of each of those pieces. So we might be finding a rectangle with a triangle on top, or two rectangles. And then we're going to find the area for each piece, and then we add those pieces together. So let's start with our guided practice. So the first shape is a parallelogram. you'll be lucky. Parallelograms almost always look like this and they make it easy. Notice that this and this side, the 3 and the 5.4, create a right angle. That means that those are the perpendicular sides. That's the height and the base. So we're going to say that this is a parallelogram. The formula area equals base times height. Remember, we don't use x's for multiplication anymore. Our base, and these two can really be, remember the height's the one that's perpendicular. So we're going to say that the base is 5.4 and the height is 3. So that when we're done, we get, multiply those at 16.2 centimeters squared. Now units are important, especially on a multiple choice test. You want to make sure that your units area is squared. It's a number times a number, so anything times itself. So centimeter times a centimeter becomes centimeters squared. So make sure that you put the units in there correctly, because on a multiple choice test, 16.2 centimeters might be a choice. It is centimeters squared. The next one is broken up, or we're going to need to break into pieces, because as you can see, that's not a rectangle or a parallelogram or any one shape. It is two shapes. So you can break this two ways. There is no one is more correct than the other. I'm just going to choose to break it right here. So you can see that I'm going to break this into two rectangles. Rectangle 1 and rectangle 2. So now I have to find some measurements because I don't have all of the measurements that I need. So if this side is 9 and this side is 2, 9 minus 2 means that this piece is 7. And then for the top of rectangle 1, the very, very bottom is 10, right here. This is 10. And this piece is 6, so that makes this piece 4. So now I can say that the area of rectangle 1 is 4 times 7, which is 28. And then the area of rectangle 2 is 10 times 2, which is 20. So the total area, and we're going to add in this case, right? There's no subtracting. We're going to add that together. The total area is 48 centimeters squared. So that's just an example of breaking them into pieces and then having to add them back together. Now, when we look at the last example, we can choose to add or subtract. I suppose I could have added or subtracted for number 2, but I'm going to subtract for number 3. Do you see the big rectangle? It would be one that was 8 by 12. 4, 4, and 4. So that side is 12. So I have this huge rectangle. So we're going to call this rectangle 1, and we're going to call this one rectangle 2. So the area of rectangle 1 is 8 times 12, which is 96. So that's the whole thing if I filled in that shaded part. And then the area of rectangle 2 is 4 times 4, which is 16. So then my total area This time I'm going to subtract area, I can spell, is 96 minus 16, which is 80 centimeters squared. So I subtracted out this piece to get my final answer. So when it says to find the area of the shape or the area of the shaded piece, just make sure that you know whether you need to add or subtract. Again, I could have found the area of this bottom piece and then added 2 squares. Both of those ways would have been sufficient. So this way works too. Now, I didn't read the instructions until just now because I was paying that much attention. It also says to find the perimeter. So to find the perimeter, we just add up all the sides, but they're not all labeled, so I need to make sure and go back and do that. So this is 4, 4, 4, this is 4, 4, 8, we discovered this is 12, that means this is 8. So perimeter is 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus 4 plus 8 plus 12 plus 8, which is 48 centimeters. Notice that for perimeter, my pen's not staying down, that for perimeter, it is not squared. That's an important distinction. Also, we gotta find the perimeter for the one above, because you know me, I'm paying that close attention. The perimeter for the top shape, I found all my lengths, 4, 7, 6, 2, 10, 9. 4 plus 7 plus 6 plus 2 plus 10 plus 9 equals 38 centimeters. So make sure that you do better than me and that you read the instructions carefully. Calculate the area and the perimeter of the shape. Make sure that you identify what you're looking for, identify all the sides, make sure every line on your shape has a dimension, either because you find it or because it's there. And then use that information to find the area or the perimeter. If you have any questions, don't forget that my office hours are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 to 11. The link is in Canvas, and you can just log in and we'll chat.